In this video, I'm going to talk about auditing. I have created a detailed LinkedIn post on auditing. So I'll link this article in the description of video so that you can read it whenever you get time. So I'll start with auditing. So what exactly auditing? Auditing in software development, basically if you are tracking any changes made to data, so that will be auditing, and that is crucial for any real world application. Like, why exactly we need auditing? So basically like whenever you have any compliance or you want to keep track of your software, in that case you will be like needing this. Basically auditing answers few questions like who created this record, when this record got created, who modified this record, and when this record got modified, that type of thing. Like you have seen earlier in any table or not, I don't know, but mostly this practice is being like used in software industry. Like every table, let's say you have a user table, so this table will be having few common entity, like few common properties that can be like common to all other entity as well, like created by, updated by, createdAt, updatedAt. So these like columns will be in every table, like be it user table or any other table, so that you will keep track of like basic things like who created this record, when it got updated, this type of details. So in a Spring Boot, basically we have multiple way to incorporate this, but very common and the practical way like industry is using, that is entity listener. So what is entity listener? It is a kind of like a class that is provided by JPA or Hibernate type of framework, where like these are kind of a special class that is stateless and that intercepts like all the request, and it responds to the different events during any entity lifecycle. So what is entity lifecycle? Basically whatever we are doing, let's say we are creating any record, so in that case, like before creating a record, we have one lifecycle, pre-persist. Like that we have multiple lifecycle. I have updated this into this LinkedIn post. I'll show you here. I have added different lifecycle like pre-persist, post-persist, pre-update. So these are the different lifecycle, and based on this lifecycle, basically our application will emit an event, and based on that event, basically application will do certain operations. So I'll go back to my this application, and like every video can be taken individually. I have designed this curriculum in such a way like this video can be taken independently, last videos can be taken independently, so you can continue from anywhere. But if you want a full-fledged video, then you can start from starting, and you can build together. So in this video like I'm going to create an entity class, and basically I will explain like what is auditing, what are the different way to achieve this. So I'll create a entity package here, and in this package I'll create one class, let's say user entity. I'll delete this user entity to show you better way, but this is the lengthy way for now I'm showing. So let's say you have created one user entity, so mostly this will be having entity. Why it is not coming? Oh, in last video we have commented these dependencies like JPA and other dependencies. So I'll uncomment JPA and I'll uncomment everything for now. Even mail I'll need in upcoming videos. I'll sync it now. So I'll go back to my user entity class. Now you can see it is coming, and we can create basic methods like private long or int id, long id, then basic details, plus we will be having private date time and when it got created. Same when it got updated. I'll copy paste. Who created this record? So basically for that I'll keep track of user entity itself. So for that like user id will be long, so this will be long, and this will be created by. Oops. And this will be updated by. So mostly this will be like user entity with few other field. There will be a lot of other field. So with this we can like in this entity itself we can create different lifecycle method like pre-persist, and based on that like I can say like before persisting this you can do certain operation, like let's say so here we can do the logging. Let's say I'm making as a SL4J, so I can simply call log.info and pass it here like attempting to add a new user with username. So this way we can add few different methods like post persist, pre-remove, and we can add different logging or different custom logics, whatever we want to achieve it. So this will be kind of homework for you. So try it. Create one entity class, and inside that entity class create different methods like with the all the life cycle events whatever mentioned here in this post: pre-persist, post-persist, pre-update, these things, and try to run your application by creating a repository. So you will see like different methods being called at different events. So if you are like following this approach, so you have to create these methods in every entity class. So that will be kind of like boilerplate codes in everywhere. So there is a better way of creating this. You can create your own class like entity class, I mean listener class. So you can create like any name, audit, audit listener or audit trail listener class, and in that class you can have all the methods like pre-persist, post-persist, those things. Like you can have those methods here, and then okay, and then you can simply remove, add here entity listeners, and here you can call that listener class. I created this listener class audit listener.java, so I can call that audit listener dot class, and whatever I have written here, those things will be called automatically, so I don't have to write it manually here. Like these events will be tracked and captured, and basically whatever logic I have written here, like let's say I have written to update record, so it will go into database and it will update that particular column. So try this in your code. I'll delete everything and I'll create like a structure for my project, what we are going to create next. I have deleted both class. I'll create one entity class, BaseEntity, and in that basically I'll add all the auditing stuffs and whatever extra is needed. In this way, basically this class will be extended by all other classes, and it will be having all the necessary properties that is common for each entity. So I'll make it abstract, public abstract class, so that every class should implement extend, whoever is extending that should implement whatever method is pending. So I'll make it abstract, and every like entity class will be having one ID. So I'll create private long ID, then I'll create one reference ID, a string reference ID. Basically I'll assign this like to a random generated string. So I'll create new alternate JDK generator dot generate ID, and I'll make it a string. So every record will be having a unique random long string, and we will make this string in future or in any application. Like we directly don't make use of ID, so in those cases we can make use of reference ID. Next, like as we discussed earlier, we have to create like we have to keep track of who created this particular record. So for that I'll have private long createdBy, private long updatedBy. This is long because our user will be having ID as long. So like who updated this record will be user itself. So I have kept it as user ID. So that user ID will be createdBy and updatedBy here. Then when it got created, for that I have to create one attribute, private local date time, and createdAt, same for updated. So I'll duplicate this and make it as updated. Now I'll mark this as, this is not an entity class, this will be like a super class for all entity class. So this will be like super class entity mapped super class, and I need getter I need setter, and as we discussed earlier, like we should create entity listener, and then our whatever listener class is there. So for this I'll make use of one entity class, auditing entity listener. Basically that is provided by Spring itself. So that is having common methods like pre-persist and other methods. So I'll call entity listener, and here I will pass auditing event listener dot class, and I'll ignore few properties like just an ignore properties, and values will be basically two values, like when it got created and when it got updated. So those two values we don't want to show to the user for now. So like we don't want it to be set by user. So what we will do, we will add those two field name, createdAt, and then updatedAt, and we will allow getters so that only like user can read like when it got created, when it got updated, and creation and updation will be fully taken care by application itself. So this is our class, and now this is also, this should be id, I'll make it generated value, and strategy should be identity. So this will generate like in sequence 1 2 3 4 in PostgreSQL basically. And this created by should not be null, so I'll make it as not null. Same for updated by. Yeah, it is coming from correct place, not null. And same for createdAt and updatedAt. Not null. And this should be createdDate. So this will automatically pick when this record got created, so that date. So this is also a kind of auditable annotation that is provided by Spring. So using this we are directly inserting this particular timestamp when it got created. And for updated we have like modified it or something like that, but in this case we will create like we will make use of createdAt only, createdAt, and this will be like we will make it like nullable false. So and this can be null at first time, so we will leave this. We will define column. First I'll give name. It will automatically pick this updatedAt in camel case, but I'm making sure like it is having correct name only. And nullable, it can be null, so for now nullable false. And same for this one, it can't be null, sorry, it can be null, I told, like when it got updated first time, then it will create take that timestamp, and later it will take that timestamp. Same for this one, I'll define column definition, and I'll give a name, update createdAt. I'll make nullable false, and this will be like updatable false, means like first time it will add that particular timestamp, and after that it won't be updated. So we will be having created time, and after that we won't be able to update this record. So this record will be updated every time, like this particular any entity will be touched, so this will be updated, and this won't be able to update. Now what we want these record to be set whenever anything happen to the database. For that we have different life cycle, you can read that LinkedIn post. So we have pre-persist. Pre-persist, as the name suggests, like before persisting any record, do this particular operations. So what I want to do, I want to do certain operation like update those record. So I'll give it a name, before persist. What I want to do before persist? Before persist, I want to check whether we have user or not. So user id equal to, and this user id we will set using ThreadLocal. So we will create a class like request context class, and in that class basically we will keep everything. So for now, request I'll create this request context class. I'll create one more package, and here I'll create request context class, and this class will hold particular user record from inside ThreadLocal. So I'll create one, and this will like take long, because our user is having long as a user id. And I'll create one default constructor. And this should be private, so no one should able to create object of this class. And I'll allow setting user id and getting user id via static methods. So I'll create a static set user id, and inside that I'll set this variable user id dot set, and in this I will set this user id what I got from the user. Same for get. So From here I'll basically return user ID from this ThreadLocal. Return user ID dot get. And after doing everything, like when I have set it, or maybe I have read this particular user ID, I should remove this from ThreadLocal. So I'll create one more method to remove this. So I have this class ready. I'll go back to my BaseEntity. I'll import this request context. So this user ID, while logging in, I'll set this user ID. So whenever user is logged in, he will do anything. So his user ID will be set into session, and from that, set into ThreadLocal, and from that ThreadLocal, it will read, and then it will automatically set that this particular record is created by this user, or this particular record is modified by this user at this time. So what I need, first I need to check if user ID is valid or not. So I'll check user ID is null or not, and if it is null, then I'll throw my own custom exception class. In future, basically I'll handle everything for my front-end application. So I'll create this exception class as well. So I'll create one more package, exception, and here I'll create exception class. And basically this will extend runtime exception. Whenever we want to create any custom class in Java, so we have to extend runtime exception, and we will override both method, like default constructor and telling method, sorry, both constructor, default constructor and like super constructor, to pass messages. So I'll generate constructor, generate constructor. One constructor will simply pass whatever message we have, and one constructor will simply pass like a generic message, like something got wrong or an error occurred. So I'll pass super and pass message, an error occurred. And here basically I'll pass whatever message from that class that will be passed to that runtime exception class. I'll go back to the basics, BaseEntity class, and then I'll like throw, like we don't have user, so cannot persist entity without user ID. So this will show the message to the front end that we cannot persist entity without user ID. Now we want to update these records. So I'll do set createdAt, then set createdBy, then set updatedAt and set updatedBy. So whenever it is being updated, that time also that particular user will be logged in. So this will be true. So I'll pass user ID, and that time like we have to take local date time dot now. I'll make it a static import. Same, it is not updatable, so that user ID will be true for this case as well, and time also updatable false, so it will be same. Now let's create pre-update. For pre-update we only need two things, like who updated and when it got updated. So every other things will be same. This will be pre-update, and I'll rename this method before update. I'll get user ID from request context itself, and same cannot update entity without user ID in this particular request context thread. This two won't be there, but set updatedAt will be like this time, and set updatedBy, whoever logged in currently, that person is updating. So we have a scenario like let's say when person is registering or doing certain operation that is not done by logged in user. In that case, basically we will be creating one default user, system user, and that system user like will be set like whenever this user ID will be null, we will set like this is done by system. Yeah, so try this, like whatever we discussed earlier, like uh, by creating entity class itself and their different life cycle, try, and then try to organize this. In next video basically I'll create user entity, and I'll try to implement this so that basically all the common entity will be there, common attribute will be there, like this thing ID, createdBy, updatedBy, createdAt. These things I don't have to duplicate every time. In earlier approach I had to do every time, I have to write every time. Like let's say if I want to create like user entity, so simply what I will do, I'll extend, I'll create show you maybe. So this class will simply extends base entity, and it will be having all the properties from base entities, like this ID will be there, so I don't have to write ID every time, private long ID, then generated ID and other things. So I'll start simply from user ID, first name, last name, these things I'll start taking. So I'll add this field in next video.